Blam!
Death cakes.
Welcome to another episode of Movie Morons. I'm your host, Holden, and this is my co-host for today, Jackson Copeland.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Now today we've got a new pitch for you. Kind of a reboot, but kind of not. The Mummy movie.
Oh, the Mummy movies.
Yes.
Some of my favorite movies with Brendan Fraser.
Yep, the prototype Chris Pratt.
As I always say, the prototype for Chris Pratt.
Yep, but this movie's not going to have Chris Pratt in it.
Or Brendan Fraser?
Or Brendan Fraser.
What? Well, why even do another Mummy movie then?
Well, this is going to be kind of a reboot. I know they're going to try to work on some weird reboot with like Tom Cruise and stuff like that, the girl from Kingsman. But this is a different type of movie.
You're coming in their office and you're saying, hold the phones
Yep.
here, guys. I've got a pitch that's going to make you reconsider this whole Tom Cruise thing.
You're going to want to throw out Tom Cruise after hearing this pitch. Maybe. But the movie's going to begin. It's kind of similar to The Mummy, where it's like archaeology, but it's not in the 40s. It's like today.
Okay.
Or maybe
Modern day archaeology.
Or maybe it is the 40s. It doesn't matter. It's kind of like one of those. It's one of those weird like 40s.
Could
modern,
be the 40s. Could be now.
like Batman.
Could be the 90s.
Or like what's that movie called?
Art
Sky
Deco
Captor.
style.
Yeah, like that, like Art Deco, like Batman.
Okay.
But it begins with two archaeologists. They're both married couple, Robert and Susie Johnson.
St. Clair.
Sinclair. But they're like really in love. They like dig each other a lot. They're like having sex and talking all the time. So they're really connected.
Okay.
And Robert's going to be played by Patrick Wilson.
Okay, Patrick Wilson from
Wilson.
Fargo, season 2.
Yep. And Susie is going to be played by Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, ScoJo.
So she is the star of this movie. She is the major star. She would be the star of the movie.
Okay. So ScarJo's the star of this movie. She's the mummy.
She is the mummy, but she's not a mummy. She is an archaeologist.
She's an archaeologist.
So
Her and Patrick Wilson.
her and Robert are working on like a new archaeology site or whatever, and they're dusting bones or whatever, doing the regular archaeology
Yeah, sitting
stuff.
there with a little paintbrush.
Yeah, like dusting bones, like whipping them off and being like, oh, this is like a skull or whatever. And so, and there's like a tomb there, wrapping mummy linen or whatever.
Yeah.
Wrapping mummy
There's a
linen.
bunch of archaeology shit.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff all over the place. And, eventually, Patrick Wilson, unearths this jewel, this beautiful jewel. It's like a I don't know, like a sapphire or something like that. I don't know.
Something really valuable.
Something real valuable, ancient, worth a lot of money to the right person.
Yeah, it's
And,
the heart of the desert.
Yeah, something like that. It's some weird dumb name like that. And then he's like, look what I found. It's this jewel. It must be the heart of the desert. This could be worth millions or whatever. And then it cuts to some gangsters or whatever.
Okay.
And bust in with the guns, and they're all holding them at gunpoint. 4 or 5 of them, and they're like, oh shit, what's going on? And they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then it cuts to our main antagonist. His name's Tony, Cifaretto.
Sriracha.
Not Sriracha. Cifaretto. That's the name from The Sopranos.
Tony Cifaretto.
That's not The Sopranos. I was thinking about Soprano, but then I was like, nah.
Tony
So,
Cifaretto.
Cifaretto. He comes in, and he's played by Benicio del Toro.
Oh.
Classic, cool
The collector
actor
from Guardians of the
guy.
Galaxy.
Yeah, he's going to be able to pull off a really creepy, mean performance. Mean performance. He's mean, all right.
Oh, shit.
So he's kind of smoking a cigarette or whatever, a cigar, whatever gangsters do. And he's talking to him, and he's like, I want that jewel or whatever. And he's like, but this, belongs in a museum. He's like Indiana Jones. Patrick Wilson's character's like, this belongs in a museum, And he's kind of like, museums are for schmucks or whatever, and he takes it.
He's like, do you know how much I could net on the black market
and he's
for
like,
this?
do you know how much I could get on the black market for this? And then, like, and he's about to, like, be like, kill him or whatever. And then Patrick Wilson, says like a snide comment, like a Indiana Jones like thing where he's like, yeah, you're probably gonna need that money to buy new shoes or whatever, because he's wearing like some weird shoes or whatever.
Yeah, he's like, what are those?
Yeah, he's like, what are those? He says, something about like his shoes or something like that, something really like, something really like small.
Okay, so he makes like a real small time.
Yeah, he makes
crack at his
nice
shoes.
small crack at his shoes, and then Benicio del Toro's like he's walking away, and it's kind of like you just had to say that, didn't you? And then he like turns around and he's like, like boys, and like they grab Robert and like pull him away, and then like grab Scarlett Johansson, and like punch her or whatever, like do something to her. And then, like, she's, like, struggling. And they're just like, here, let's use this. And then he, like, pulls out, like, some mummy wrapping.
Okay.
And then, like, they wrap her up. And he's just like, yeah, we'll wrap up like a mummy. Because these gangsters are really terrible people.
Yeah.
And they're just dumb, too. So they're like, let's wrap her up like a mummy or whatever. And so they're wrapping her up like a mummy, like, to hold her tight so she's not struggling. And she can only see. And so, they finally tie Robert down to, like, some table.
Okay, so they tied Patrick Wilson's Robert down to a table.
Yep. So he's, defenseless. He's like, I can't move, they tie me down. That's what happens when
and
you get
Scarlett
tied down.
Johansson's Susie is wrapped up like a mummy.
Like a mummy.
And she's looking at what's happening to Robert.
Yeah, what's going to happen to Robert.
Yes,
and so, like, Benicio comes to him, and he's kind of like, a real man,
doesn't make fun of other people's shoes.
He's like, it's not nice what you said, men, usually, I don't know, it's what's inside a man that counts. He says something weird, like he's like, my father or something like that, and, always said it's what's inside a man that counts, or whatever. And he's like, let's see what's inside of you. And so he snaps his fingers, and his gang boys bring out a chainsaw.
Oh, shit.
They bring out a chainsaw, and they, and he's just kind of like, he grabs it, and he's like, blum, 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 blum. And so, like I said, Scarlett Johansson is seeing all of this, and she's like, no, no, no. And, like, he slowly starts, like, chopping them in half. But bisecting way, so, like, crotch up. So as he's, like, chopping them in half, you hear the screaming. I don't know. It depends on who it depends on who makes that decision on if you see it or if you don't. But but you got to get the idea that they are cutting him in half. And, like, as they're cutting him in half, it's kind of like, it stops, jams. So they're kind of like, shit. And then he just, like, pulls it out and, like, just, like, pulls, like, a machete and just whacks his head off or whatever. And, like, they throw her in, like, a sarcophagus. There's a sarcophagus nearby because they're, like, in a tomb or whatever.
Yeah.
So they throw her in like a sarcophagus, and she's like, whoa, she's like crying, and she's just like horrified at what she just saw.
She just saw her husband, her sweetheart.
The dude she dug. They were having sex and like talking like they loved each other all the time.
Yeah.
And she just saw him get chainsawed in half for nothing.
Because he made a snide comment about his shoes.
Yep. And so they throw her into a sarcophagus, and they're just like, here's a present for you or whatever. And they throw his head in there with her. So it's like sitting right next to her, and she's like, oh. And then they close it. And then they just, take the jewel and leave and stuff like that. And it's kind of like,
And they bury her alive?
Well, they just kind of leave her there. Like, they maybe cover it up or whatever. Do whatever that, roll a big stone in front of it, like Jesus' tomb or whatever.
Okay, so she's trapped in this tomb.
So she's trapped in there, essentially. And, she's kind of in there, and she's like, oh. And she eventually, like, maybe you show somehow time has passed, and she eventually just, dies, because, she's been in there with no food or water. And, like, she passes, and then, like, kind of she wakes up, and she's, like, in this black room all alone. And then she, like, looks over, and there's, like, a throne. There's, like, a weird, like, I don't know how you would explain it. Maybe something kind of like 300-y looking. where like, Xerxes, he was like real tall and like kind of weird looking.
Yeah.
But not like with all the chains or nothing like that. But he's kind of like, Egyptian looking. He's an Egyptian looking like tall man or whatever. Maybe he's like long and skinny, but he's kind of like, old and like corpsey, zombified looking.
Okay.
And he's sitting in like this throne or whatever. And he's kind of like this or whatever. And then she like, was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And it's, he like, moves and he's like, you. And she's like, oh my gosh, what's next? I just saw my husband get chainsawed in half. Now there's this weird creepy monster here. But, he explains to her that he's King Tut. Tutankhamun. He's King Tut. And he's like, I have the ability to give you, what you want. Revenge. So you get like this cool, like, King Tut thing. Like he'll be like, he's like Doug Jones or whatever in the makeup. But his voice is going to be Tony Todd. The Candyman.
The voice of Zoom from The Flash.
From The Flash. So he's going to have like that
For
cool...
people who haven't seen Candyman.
Well, people know Tony Todd. But you have this cool, like, creepy voice, and he's like, I can give you, revenge on these people that have killed, you and your husband. And she's like, anything, I'll do anything because I want to kill these bastards.
Okay.
So it gives her a lot of, like, amp and, like, fuel to, like, go after them. And so, like, it kind of cuts to the sarcophagus, and it kind of explodes. And she, like, bursts out, and she's like, ah! Because she comes back, and she's not, like, normal. She's still, like...
she's not Scarlett Johansson.
No, she's not Scarlett Johansson. She's still wrapped up like a mummy, but, like, and her face is still, like, it's been, like, 10 years. So her body has decayed, and she can't talk because they're, like, her jaw's hanging off or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, like,
her vocal cords are rotted.
Yeah, they're all rotted. So she's like a rotted corpse, just being able to walk. But, like, she can still, like... do stuff like karate or whatever.
Yeah, she looks like the classic,
she can move
mummy.
well. Yeah, she can still move well, but she looks like a classic mummy.
Okay.
But it's Scarlett Johansson under all this makeup. So, then it cuts to like her, and she's kind of like, trying to get back to her life, or not her life, but like she's like trying to like, figure out a way to like get back at these guys. So you kind of have like this Deadpool moment where she's got like all the strings and like the pictures and stuff on the walls.
Mm-hmm. Except she's a mummy.
So she's a mummy, so she's like, ugh.
She's putting up
But,
all these
she can't
pictures.
talk, but, we're going to still have a lot of her giving, like, exposition, and she's still going to be talking through an inner monologue. So you can still hear, like, her talking, and she's kind of like, these sons of bitches, ruined my life, and now I'm going to get payback or whatever. So, like, it shows her, like, making those, like, that wall, thing. And, maybe you cut back to, like, Tony's group or whatever, and he's talking to his second in command or whatever. His second in command is going to be played by Paulie Walnuts from The Sopranos.
I was in the Army Signal Corps. What this thing needs is what we call a Brogan adjustment.
What's that? You know how?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're going to have, like, an interaction with him where he's kind of like, hey, boss, like, what are we going to do about this or whatever? I don't know. So, the generic normal.
Yeah, they come in and have some gangstery, dialogue.
Yeah, they have gangstery dialogue, and, like, what happens is eventually, like, she, like, kind of dresses up like Darkman or the Shadow. She's kind of got, like, this real cool, like, long cape and, like, a, black suit or whatever, and, like, a hat and, like, a scarf around her face. But she's still, like, she still has the mummy face, but, like, she's just wearing, like, all black and, like, a cool hat and stuff like that. But she doesn't really have any superpowers. She can, like, she gets, like, shot up. But, like, when she gets shot up, like, sand or, like, dust comes out because she's just, like, a corpse.
Okay.
And it doesn't really phase her or nothing like that, so she's just able to, like, walk through and take bullets and stuff like that. But she just uses, like, guns. Because, she doesn't have, like, the cool, like,
mummy powers
or
like
nothing
the
like
last
that.
mummy.
Like
who
the
could
last mummy. She
turn
just-
himself into a big sand wave or something.
Yeah,
and then
whatever.
could
Yeah,
give you
yeah,
bugs.
she can't do that type of stuff. She can't, like, make a bunch of bugs appear or whatever. She's just got guns.
She just got guns, and she can't be hurt by bullets because she's dead.
Because she's already dead. So she's, like, attacked. She's taking down, like, strongholds from, like, his group or whatever. She's just, like, ripping them to shreds with bullets and stuff like that. And then like, they're kind of like, boss, we're getting torn apart by this, vigilante guy or whatever. And he's just like, this vigilante's nothing. We're gonna take them down one by one. We're gonna kill them all or whatever. And then eventually, like, the second in command gets captured by Susie. So she captures the second in command, Paulie Walnuts.
Okay.
And she's like torturing him and stuff like that, like, cutting his face or like his neck or whatever, like his chest or whatever. Doing like torturing stuff, like electrocuting him, and then like waterboarding, all the classic torture techniques. And then eventually, like, she shows him like a picture of Benicio del Toro, Tony. And she's like, where is he? Kind of points to him because she can't talk.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like trying to convey, like, where is he? Can I find him? And he's just like, I'll tell you nothing. And then like she's just like, it's like beating the hell out of him. And then eventually he does give up. He's just like, I'll tell you, Or like she shows him like a picture of like his mom or something like that. Like, I'm gonna kill your mom if you don't tell me. And she's like, okay, I'll tell you anything you want. And then, tells her where to find him, and then she just, like, shoots him or whatever. And walks away and lights the place on fire. And then, Benicio, knows that his second in command has been taken by this vigilante. So he's like, this vigilante's going to come after me. He's going to, they're going to come, kill him. They're going to come gunning for me. So he gets all of his men, like, armed to the teeth with machine guns, all this stuff. The guns, machine guns, all the guns in the world. But no grenade launchers, because they couldn't afford them. So it cuts to the finale. She's, she doesn't, like, sneak in, because she doesn't have any powers, and she's not really adept at, like, doing a lot of this stuff. She's just an archaeologist.
Yeah.
And so she just walks in through the front door. But, like I said, bullets don't phase her, because, they don't really hurt. She can't really feel anything. There's no, like, blood or nothing like that coming out. So she's just, like, taking this hail of bullets. But she's also, like, shooting everybody dead. And, like, maybe she runs out of bullets and she starts having to, like, do some, like, having to, like, choke them out or whatever. Yeah. But, like, she, like, grabs some of them and just, like, smashes their heads into walls until it's just, like, a bloody paste or whatever. Yeah. Like, half of their heads is just, like, gone.
Yeah, just straight up, like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's just a horrible bloody mess. She's like cutting dude's legs in half. It's very violent. Okay. And she eventually makes it up to Tony's room, who tries to shoot her too, but it's not working. And he's just kind of like, what am I gonna do? You're crazy, or whatever. He's like, well, you're crazy. Just leave me alone. I'll give you whatever money you want. And she's just like, ugh. And then like grabs him and like throws him across the room, knocking him out. And, he, like, wakes up, and he's in a tomb, similar to at the beginning of the movie. He's, like, in a tomb, and he's, like, looking around. He's tied up, and, like, you see, like, Susie comes out through the shadows, and she's, like, in her mummy face, but she, like, starts taking it off. Mm-hmm. And you finally see, like, her full face, and it's just rotted out, like, her jaw's, like, hanging, like, and it's nasty and horrible. Yeah. And in her monologue, she's kind of like, soak it all in, motherfucker.
And so we got Scarlett Johansson's voice.
Yeah, because she's like, just like, take it all in. This is what you've done to me. You ruined my life. Mm-hmm. Look at me. I'm going to murder you.
I used to look like Scarlett Johansson.
I look to you like Scarlett Johansson.
Okay.
And so she's like, I'm, gonna do to you what you did to my husband. So she pulls out the chainsaw. And she revs it up, and he's like, no, please, no! And then, like, she slowly starts, like, bringing it to his crotch as to, cut him in half the same way. Mm-hmm. And as, like, you don't see it because it cuts back to Benicio's face, and he's like, no! And then it just fades out.
Not my jewels!
Not my
jewels! You can have the jewels! Just don't take my jewels!
Not my jewels! So yeah, it fades out to that as the chainsaw is slowly coming towards his crotch to be cutting in half.
Jeez, and it cuts to black. It says directed by, I can only assume, Eli Roth.
No, I'm wanting to go somewhere different with it. I'm thinking Penny Marshall.
The lady that made Splash?
She directed Big.
Even worse.
She directed Big. She's married to Gary Marshall, sorry. or Frank Marshall, one of the two. But
maybe both of them.
Maybe both of them. I don't know. But she's a classy director. You know, she did Big, great movie. I think she can do something really different.
This Crow-style Mummy remake.
Mummy remake movie.
With Scarlett Johansson that's incredibly violent.
Horrifyingly violent.
Wow. That is
Eli
something.
Roth will be shocked. How gruesome this
He will love it, though.
Yes, he'll love it, but he'll be like, whoa.
Yeah. That was awesome. I would say, as far as what I like, I definitely like the inclusion of the inner monologue by Scarlett Johansson, especially because, for one, if you don't have that, it's like, why do you even have Scarlett Johansson in the movie? Because she's a horrible mummy. But we know that Scarlett Johansson can carry a whole movie with just her voice if you've seen Her.
Yes.
Which was an excellent movie. And I think this will top that.
Yes, because she'll have, like, you know, cool lines like, you know, maybe we'll bring in, like, Frank Miller to give some cool, like, lines where she's like, you know, there's 8 ways I can take him down from this position. 2 of them can kill and 3 of them hurt real bad or whatever.
One of them is I can strangle him with my mummy wrapping.
But she's got, like, some cool, like, badass lines that she says in her inner monologue.
I'm gonna
Dark Knight Returns.
I'm gonna make him scream for his mummy.
Yeah. Well, that was Movie Morons. I'm your host, Holden, and make sure you like and subscribe. And for Movie Morons, like I said, I'm Holden, and this is Jackson.
Have a nice day.
That's not what I sound like. By the way, because, you know, he's going to have a lot of reaction in his face, I felt like you needed a good actor with a lot of facial reactions, you know, that can kind of act with his eyes. I feel like Tom Hardy can do that. So Jason's going to be played by Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy is used to playing roles where he's got a bunch of shit on his face.
Yep.
The people. Gotham is yours.